Ladies and gentlemen, UFC Fight Night, De Ridder versus Allen is here. Let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. So this Saturday, October 18th at 6 p.m. Central Time, you've got a fight night. This is not a pay-per-view. This will be Reinier De Ridder versus Brendan Allen. Decent card for a free one. It's not like super stacked. Per usual, we're not really going to spend any time on the prelims. We'll just take a quick glance at those, and then we'll actually hit the main card and kind of break those down, and then maybe take a look at some of the bets that we like for those as well. But cruising through the prelims, nothing really was jumping out at me, blowing my hair back. Some interesting ones that I saw, though, was Kyle Prepelic versus Drew Dober. Old Dober, I mean, absolute cannon, and a fairly granite chin, so could be a fun one there. His chin's starting to go a little bit, so keep an eye on that. Danny Barlow, also a guy with dangerous hands. Left hand to God. I don't know anything about this Jordan Santos guy. Weird build. Shakur. Keep an eye on that one. That one's going to be fun. Bruno Silva, Hyun Sung Park. Should be pretty decent scrap there. I lean towards a little bit towards Park. Like to see the odds on that. And then last but not least, Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. What are the odds on that? Damn, I don't hate Davy Grant at plus 142. He's one of these guys, almost like a Neil Magny, that will often get the upset, do the old veteran crafty bullshit, and get it done. But moving on, first fight of the night that we're actually going to break down, we have a lightweight matchup. We have Kyle Nelson versus the Steamroller, Matt Frevola. Big fans of Frevola. Let me pull up my notes here. Guy's been around for a hot minute. He's a Ray Longo dude, so of course we're going to root for him. Kyle Nelson, though, has also been around for a minute. Both these guys, comparable experience. Let me pull up Mr. Nelson's record. 16-6-1, 34 years old. 6 wins by KO, 4 by sub, 6 by decisions. Lost 3 times by knockout, which I think is something to keep an eye on in this fight. Once by submission, 2 by decision. Most recently, coming off a TKO loss to Steve Garcia. Was doing okay in that fight. Had a little bit of success, if I recall correctly. He was actually in a fairly dominant position on the ground at one point. I think he may have even had Steve Garcia's back, but did take a lot of damage before he eventually went out in that. There was a lot of unanswered shots, and then they eventually waved it off. Orthodox fighter, like I said, decent grappling, back. A little bit of a power advantage here and perhaps a little bit of a wrestling advantage. I don't know about the ground control. Matt Frevola was actually doing fairly good in one of his last fights, but then ended up chasing if I recall correctly, it was an armbar. He was getting dumped off to the side a little bit against, I think it was Faraz Ziem. But then, yeah, like I said, started chasing the armbar and ended up getting dumped off to the side. Little undersized, like Kyle Nelson is. Both these dudes a little bit undersized for the division. Definitely does the big wind-up overhand shit, but I do think Frevola has the power advantage. What are the odds? Basically even money here. Frevola inside the distance might be the move. I'd keep an eye on that once the odds drop. If you're getting anything, 150, 200 ballpark, I think that's probably worth playing. Frevola's pretty heavy-handed, and I think he gets it done. He needs some kind of comeback here. Next up, we have Cody Gibson versus Arichi Lang, the Mongolian Murderer, one of my favorite nicknames. Again, very comparable records here. We have a 22-11 versus a 25-11. Oh, Cody Gibson. Dude, ripping around dirt bikes outside. Cody Gibson, 38 years young, Ultimate Fighter alumni. Coming off the submission loss at Kimura to old Damone Blackshear. I believe we had that one as well, if I recall correctly. Decision win prior to that, though. Pretty light, pretty springy on his feet, very mobile. Likes to stab with the jab and kind of dance around the outside. Kind of like flicky, cat-like movement. He's kind of pawing at you, slapping away. Reminds me a little bit of Darren Till, both in looks and like his shot selection. High volume, high pressure. Again, also like Darren Till, he reminds me of Charles Johnson. In that aspect. Okay wrestling. It's not like spectacular, but it's pretty good. Physically demanding style, very high energy. That I think, unfortunately, as he gets older, is just going to be a little too taxing for him to keep up. But going against a guy here, Arichi Lang, the Mongolian Murderer. Like I said, comparable records. 32 years old, 25-12. 8 wins by knockout, 1 by sub, 16 wins by submission. Good grief. Coming off a decision loss to Raul Rosas Jr., old Chihuihuis, back in September. And then there was a no contest prior to that. Straight punches, has a little bit of a longer stance, so you can get chewed up with the low kicks. I would say Mongolian Murder probably has the power advantage. Cody Gibson has the volume and perhaps the wrestling. He's also the taller and longer of the two, with, I think, longer reach. Oh, this is tough. Speed and grappling, I would say, go in favor of Cody. Striking power to the Mongolian Murderer. So long as Gibson can stay fresh, I actually think he can win this. Cody Gibson, minus 175. So apparently I'm not the only one. I'd go that route. Next up, number 2, women flyweight in the world versus the number, 5 women's flyweight in the world? Yeah, Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Oh, Manon Fiorot, coming off a title shot, I believe. She lost to Valentina. Yep, that's her last fight. It was May of this year. She lost a decision to old Valentina. Kind of got pieced up, honestly. I don't want to say she got her ass beat, but she did get pieced up pretty good. Especially once she started slowing down a little bit. Valentina was able to get her to the ground, get the takedowns, establish like good side control, heavy crucifix position, and do some work there. So worry a little bit about that in this fight. She's okay striker. She's a little bit stiff, kind of an upright stance. Taller southpaw though, good jab, good lead right hook. Okay combos when she chooses to open up a little bit. A little more flat-footed. So I think Jasudavicius might have a little bit of better movement here. Seemed physically strong, like she picked up Blanchfield and basically slammed on her head. Takedown defense is where I worry a little bit here. Jasmine Jasudavicius, I think, is probably, given her last couple fights and her submission wins, I think she's going to be favoring that in this fight. And given how Fiol was held down by Valentina, that's probably the game plan. Jasudavicius also has a taller, kind of long, lean build. Both of them 5'7". Jasudavicius actually has the longer reach. Fiorot kind of has like T-Rex arms going on. Defensively, not super impressive. She's a little slow, kind of backs up and gets tagged while she's doing so. Not super great power, but I did like her duck in when she was going for her takedown in her last fight. She against Jessica Andrade, she ducked right underneath I believe it was a big right hook. But either way, ducked, got right in on the hips, got the takedown, secured it. It's pretty nice. So I think that's going to be the game plan in this one. I think for the odds, I'd probably go Jasudavicius. Fiorot's probably the slightly better grappler and maybe he's a hair stronger. But when she fades, I would say Jasudavicius takes over. If this was a 5-rounder, I would feel more confident in her. It's a tough one, man. I would pick the over. Over 2.5. You parlay that with something. Maybe the over there as well, but fun scrap. Maybe some title implications. I think if Jasudavicius wins, she might be the next to get a shot at Valentina after the super fight with Valentina and Wiley. But fun scrap. Canada's going to go shithouse for Jasmine. Her and Mike Malott. Proper Mike Malott. Moving on. Third fight from the top. We have Marlon Chito Vera versus Eamon Zahabi. Real fun scrap here. I'm a Chito Vera fan. He's been out for a minute. Experience edge definitely goes to old Chito Vera. 23-10, 8 wins by KO, 10 by sub, 5 by decision. He's a very volatile fighter in general. Very much going to chase the finish, be it submission or striking. One of these guys with kind of unsuspecting power, too. I don't think you expect, and then he cracks you with a nice solid shot. It's like, oh my God, this dude's got some pop on his hands. Very durable fighter, has never been finished. Kind of a slow starter. Relatively basic in the way that he fights. He's not throwing a ton of super flashy shit. Once in a blue moon, maybe a spin kick or something like that. But it's a lot of pretty basic, pretty meat and potatoes type of fighting. Orthodox, somewhat upright with his hands in like a mid guard. At time he drops him a little bit low. He's got a hard chopping low kick, which I think might play into this one a little bit. Good stomp. Takedown defense in the wrestling leaves a little bit to be desired, but at least he is dangerous off his back. Like I mentioned, he's volatile both in striking and on the ground. Throwing up submissions, hitting you with the elbows, making you at least pay for it if he's going to be down there. I guess he's kind of the sniper fighting style. Going against the guy here, though, in Eamon Zahabi, Firas Zahabi's younger brother. He's still 37 years old, so not too much younger. Probably doesn't have a ton of time left on his career, actually, which is kind of wild because he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he's not the most active fighter. 13-2, 6 wins by KO, 2 by sub, 5 by decision. He's got 1 KO loss, 1 decision loss. Most recently coming off a decision win over Jose Aldo. From what I recall, it was kind of a boring fight where he danced around the outside, picked at Jose Aldo, and then tried to stifle him when he did get in close. His brother in his corner is definitely a plus. Faraz is a great coach, great mind for the sport. Decent side-to-side movement. I think he's going to have a movement advantage over Marlon Vera. Vera's a little bit planted. Kind of does some weird shit with his lead leg where he's lifting it up occasionally like he wants to kick with it or doesn't necessarily want it to be planted so that's a target for you, which with Cheeto's leg stomps and kicks, that calf kick and everything else, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. It not being planted might leave it to get chewed up a little bit more too. So kind of hunched up over like a closed stance. Good jab, ripping kicks to the body. Seem kind of more speed than power. It's not like he's blasting away at you. Okay volume. Bats at the hands defensively at times, which I think might get him caught here. For the odds, I would say probably take Chito Vera. He's got quite an experience advantage. I think he probably has a gas tank advantage. Durability, I would say, probably goes in his favor as well. So I'll take Vera. I've been wrong on every single Zahabi fight pretty much. I always pick against this guy, and somehow he still ends up getting it done. It's kind of bullshit. He's kind of annoying. I really don't think he's that good of a fighter, but yet he still manages to get it done. So what the hell do I know? Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm going with Vera. I think he's a more volatile fighter in both the grappling and the striking. And I think he's looking to go out here and make a statement given his last couple fights. 2 losses in a row, which is not a very common thing for him in his career. So Vera for the win. Next up, co-main event of the evening, one of the more fun ones in my opinion. We have Kevin Holland, Big Mouth versus proper Mike Malott. Mike Malott's going to have the home field advantage. Kevin Holland's going to have a pretty significant experience advantage, which fighting as often as he does, you would somewhat expect that. Dude fights every time you turn around. Kevin Holland, 32 years old, 28-14. Again, significantly more fights than Mike Malott, while also being a year younger than Mike Malott. 14 wins by KO, 9 by sub, 5 by decision, so by and large a finisher. Lost twice by KO, 4 times by sub, 8 by decision. Coming off a decision loss to Daniel Rodriguez, where I thought he was actually doing okay, and then he got caught by D-Rod, who has surprising pop in his hands. Catches a lot of people off guard, I think, and ends up rocking her shit, and I just don't think Kevin Holland was able to recover. I don't think he was taking that fight as seriously as he should have, which he does very often in his fights. So I'd like to see him come out here and really take this one serious and go out there and make a statement, especially Mike Malott being in his hometown and everything. If you can go out there and steal that shine, that'd be pretty sick. Pretty upright fighter, somewhat narrow stance, decent kicks, kind of a 1-2, occasionally throwing the hooks and something slick, but a lot of it's like stabbing straight shots. Again, kind of a sniper-like style, while also not having necessarily the power that Vera does. Okay on the ground, pretty hard to finish, pretty hard to control. He's very wiry and has good scrambles. I think he could potentially throw up a submission here on Mike Malott as well, so we'll see. But you got Mike Malott coming off a KO win over Charles Radke back in May, if I recall correctly. Yep, May 10th. 12-2, 5 wins by KO, 6 by sub, 1 by decision. He's been KO'd twice. Most recently in January of 24 by Neil Magny, but people get Neil Magny sometimes. That happens. Southpaw, fairly upright in his stance as well. Maybe a hair longer than like Kevin Holland. Excuse me. Switches stances fairly well. I was pulling the cord. Nope, we're still good. Switch stance is fairly rare. Likes the rear kick to the body, and then he'll switch it up high. Don't know that he's going to be doing that a ton against old Kevin Holland, given how tall he is. Likes to wade in while striking with his chin up a little bit in the air. You might see him wade in and get cracked on a counter by Kevin Holland and flatlined. Likes to feint with the hips, then throw a low kick. Not a ton of power. Again, I think it's kind of something just to get you guessing and get you confused. Overload the computer system, so to speak. A little flat-footed, which Kevin Holland isn't like super mobile, so I don't know that that's going to matter a ton, but he does circle out and reset. Fairly decent BJJ. I don't think he's like a real physical freak or anything. I think he gets by kind of a good mix of physicality and technicality. Hands get a little low. Striking, it's not like he has a ton of power. He's particularly fast. I think he puts it together fairly well, though. Good basic boxing. This is a tough fight for me, man. It's all Kevin Holland is so wishy-washy, it's hard to say. I think raw skills, raw talent, physicality and stuff, Kevin Holland has all the tools to get it done. It's just a matter of which Holland shows up. You can't bet on that. I've been burned a couple times bet on Holland in the past, so I would say probably fade this one and just enjoy it. But being, forced to pick, I would probably go Holland. We'll see, though. This is going to be a little bit of a make-or-break fight for Malott. If he gets this win and does it in emphatic fashion, in Vancouver with the hometown crowd behind him and stuff, it's going to look good for the trajectory of his career. We'll see. I'm going Holland, though. And then last but not least, the main event of the evening, middleweight bout. You have rising star Reinier De Ridder versus Brendan Allen. Reinier De Ridder on an absolute tear, coming off a decision win over old Bobby Knuckles. A little bit older, Reinier De Ridder. I think he's a little bit older than Brendan Allen. He's 35 to Brendan Allen's, I want to say it's like 30, something like that, 29, 30. 21-2, so not quite the experience that Brendan Allen has, but he was spending a lot of time in judo and competitive jiu-jitsu. Big motherfucker. He's absolutely huge for middleweight. Cuts a lot of weight. A little bit of an upright stance. Kind of awkward striking, but he's one of those that when he catches you, it looks like it's very solid punches. A lot of 1-2s and then like big winging hooks and shit. By and large, though, I think it's to get you to the ground and either TKO you, ground and pound you out, or get some kind of submission. Pretty slick on the ground, old Reinier De Ridder. Submitted Kevin Holland. And then absolutely obliterated Bo Nickel in the clinch. Going against the guy here, old Brendan Allen. Not a huge fan of old Brendan Allen. He's 29 years old, so 6-year age advantage for Mr. Allen. 25-7, 5 wins by KO, 14 by sub, 6 by decision. Lost twice by KO and once by sub, 4 times by decision. Coming off a decision win over Marvin Vettori, pretty one-sided ass whooping from what I recall. Brendan Allen favors the grappling, favors the jiu-jitsu. He's kind of a basic jiu-jitsu fighter. He's not doing super high-level, flashy, technical shit. But what he does it pretty well. He's trying to get you down, establish some kind of dominant position, maybe work to a submission. There are times where I think he needs to favor positional dominance a little bit more. He'll start chasing the submission and get dumped off to the side, or he'll get out-grappled by somebody. Imavov was out-grappling him a fair bit, and Imavov is not a jiu-jitsu guy, so you would think that would present a problem. Striking has come a long way. It left a lot to be desired there for a while, but I think it's progressing. He's not doing, again, very flashy shit, not like spinning kicks and elbows and stuff, but he's putting together some pretty decent boxing and also looks to have a good pop on it. I think Reinier De Ridder is probably going to be too much still, though, for Brendan Allen. I think he's too big. I think he's too strong. I think his jiu-jitsu's too good. Minus 215, you could take him on a money line. I would say probably take him inside the distance. That line is not out yet. I think Reinier goes out there. Round 1 and round 2, maybe it's competitive and back and forth, but I see Reinier actually taking over relatively quick, Brendan Allen fading, and Reinier finishing him. So we'll see. But that is it. Move to this one pretty quick. We're going to prepare big for the UFC pay-per-view the following weekend. We have our boy Tom Aspinall. We'll probably do a money grab episode with Andrew Morin, but that is it for UFC Fight Night. De Ridder versus Allen. Help brother out. Throw me a like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all the good shit, all the socials, share it, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your sister, do everything you can to help brother out. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.